sixth branch of the Eightfold Path of the curriculum of the Mendicants is the realistic creative effort, which is the opposite of apathy, laziness or apathy. And that, of course, is the engine of all of the higher educations, all of the other branches, because if you become apathetic and despaired, then you will not do any of them realistic world. You won't make that effort. And it's interesting that it's put at number 6 before the last two, which are more meditative, because when someone is really turning their attention toward themselves to transform themselves, then it takes quite a mental effort to turn around against your habitual mental patterns and your habitual thinking. It connects to something that one Tibetan nun, Buddhist nun, a Westerner actually, Los Angeles girl who became a nun for 30 years, she said something that I always remember always impressed me. Don't believe everything you think. So that you're turning your critical awareness within yourself to see how your mind is working and to try to begin to edit your mental habits. So just before that, you have the realistic creative effort. So you become creative about yourself. You don't settle for just being the way that you habitually are. So that's the 6th one. Then the 7th one is the realistic mindfulness, they call it, and this mindful awareness. But actually, the word for this, smrti, or sati in Pali, actually means to remember. And so it wants to remember where I am now, sort of thing. And this is the one that has become very popular in America. Actually, corporate people, there are some corporations where they have all their employees do it because it lowers your blood pressure, it improves your ability to adapt to stress, it gives you more inner freedom to choose your paths of thought and your paths of action and your reactions in interpersonal situations. It's really very beneficial. And it's sort of taken out of the mendicant context of where you're trying to really delve down and make your unconscious mental patterns conscious. And it just helps you deal with yourself better, although when you learn to first practice it, it makes you somewhat self-conscious and a little like artificial, at first, because you're suddenly looking, you're not just reacting habitually, But anyway, becoming more and more aware of oneself and one's inner processes. And it's always a shock to oneself to realize how self-involved and self-enclosed one is habitually, and how one is almost like a robot, acting, speaking, and thinking based on inner impulses one is all too often unaware of. So this introspective awareness, the 7th branch of the Eightfold Path, and the first one of the training in mind, is very, very liberating. And you become aware of your inner drives and your pre-programmed reactions, If you have friends or siblings or something who know how to provoke you, your buttons, what they press that make you always react a certain way, you become actually aware of those, and you get the ability to choose reacting instead of just automatically having to react. So it makes the unconscious mind more and more conscious, and therefore enables one to gain more control over oneself on all levels and interact ever more skillfully with the world. It's sort of a systematic cultivation of conscience, actually. It's like a very, very strong Protestant virtue, conscience, And this is conscientiousness about your way your mind works. Then the 8th one is realistic concentration, which is finally the meditation one that everybody thinks is all what Buddhism is. And maybe it is the most important because it's last, or maybe it's because what it does is it's the liberation and the implementation of the extreme power of the mind to change one's own reality. And when you develop a higher level of concentration, your mind can do things that you wouldn't have imagined beforehand. And so therefore, if you develop high concentration of mind with a lot of negative motivations and a lot of confused attitudes, then this will make you more powerfully do negative things and make your state more negative. So I think that's why it's held toward the end to be the last part of the curriculum, when you've kind of corrected the ethics, you've corrected the worldview, and you've developed creativity and self-awareness, and then you can develop this one-pointed, powerful concentration of the mind. But it completes the entire path by developing the superpower, you could even say, of extraordinary mental concentration, where one's realistic worldview can, which done on the rational intellectual level, can be brought down from that reasoning and understanding level down to visceral experience. And this is where you sort of press down your awareness of your relationality to sort of viscerally overcome your rigid identity habit, you could say, something like that. Anyway, so by reviewing in your own thinking these 8 components of the Noble Path, you can see what the mendicants were doing to change their understanding and the experience of their worlds and themselves. And lay people also followed these components as best they could, but their progress was much more constrained by the responsibilities of family, profession, and society.